And we're back. Once again, my name is Michael. This video will be talking about the minimum wage and the living wage. The minimum wage is a price floor in the market for unskilled labor. The living wage is a doubling of the current minimum wage. I don't know what it is. Alright, Exhibit A. Principles of Macroeconomics by N. Gregory Mankiw. Top-selling macroeconomics textbook in the nation of the United States, where I dwell. Page 121, a case study of the minimum wage. Therein, Gregory Mankiw goes on to explain. Hi again, I'm Michael Moore. Today we're talking about the living wage. Exhibit A, Principles of Macroeconomics by Professor Mankiw. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Mind you, this is the #1 selling macroeconomics textbook in the nation of the United States, where I dwell. Page 121, a case study of the minimum wage. Therein, Professor Mankiw goes on to explain the effects that the living wage has on the market. This is a supply and demand graph. Price, quantity, supply is upward sloping, demand is downward sloping. A living wage and a minimum wage is a price floor. This is the market for unskilled labor, by the way. Which means that the price is not allowed to fall to the market clearing price. It's illegal to pay people below this price here, but the market wants to clear at this price. So what we have here is a surplus, as is demonstrated by the disparity in work people are willing to supply at that price versus the work demanded at that price. One of the things that's very important that Dr. Mankiw says is not all minimum wage workers are heads of households trying to help their families escape poverty. In fact, fewer than 1/3 of minimum wage earners are in families with incomes below the poverty line. Many are teenagers from middle-class homes working at part-time jobs for extra spending money. Interestingly enough, earlier in this book, Dr. Mankiw cites an article called 10 Propositions About Which Most Economists Agree. Sorry, the article is there a consensus among economists in the 1990s? In the American Economic Review, May 1992. Number 8, a minimum wage increases unemployment among young and unskilled workers. 80%, 79% actually, but 80. Close enough, isn't it? Of global economists. Exhibit B, the politically incorrect guide to American history. I admit I haven't read the whole book, but we'll see here. It's another PhD. Dr. Woods. Dr. Woods explains the causes of the Great Depression and cites 3 bad economic policies, one of which being a too high minimum wage, maybe just a minimum wage at all. Allow me to read these excerpts. In the month following the stock market crash, Hoover summoned key business leaders to the White House. He implored them to refrain from cutting wages, arguing that high wages were a way out of the Depression since they gave workers the means to purchase goods. Skip a few. Hoover's theory neglected an important consideration. Wages are a cost of doing business. By demanding high wages, particularly at a time when prices were rapidly declining, he was making it more difficult for businesses to hire people. Big business, however, honored the president's request. The result was sadly predictable: mass unemployment. In case you were interested, the other 2 bad economic policies were subsidizing agriculture and trade restrictions, which I hope to talk about later on. Finally, I had an article by Professor David Newmark, who was educated at Harvard but currently works at the University of California. I lost it, but I wrote down a few quotes from that article, so I'm just going to read them to you. And then that'll be the end of this video. A higher minimum wage reduces employment among the least skilled. We already knew that. A higher minimum wage increases the probability that a teenager would leave school for a job. And black and Hispanic teenagers were more likely to become idle following the minimum wage increase. Many poor families have no workers. Raising the minimum wage does not help these families. 42.4% of low-wage workers were in families with incomes more than 3 times the poverty line. A 10% increase in the minimum wage causes a 0.71 percentage point increase in the number of poor families. Minimum wage may also have longer-run adverse effects, lowering wages and earnings even beyond the age at which individuals are most directly affected by a higher minimum wage. And that's a wrap.